woman who clings is a woman who has forgotten her power. She has forgotten that the more she holds on, the more she loses herself. Let's be very clear. Being emotionally available is beautiful, but being emotionally dependent, that's where your value starts leaking. Clinginess doesn't come from love. It comes from fear. Fear of abandonment. Fear of not being enough. Fear that if you stop texting first, no one will come. That if you don't chase, you'll be left behind. But let me ask you something. Do you really want to be chosen because you begged to be noticed? The high-value woman doesn't cling. She connects, yes. She nurtures, yes. But she never loses her self-respect in the process. She doesn't need constant reassurance because she reassures herself. She doesn't fear silence because she's comfortable in her solitude. And she doesn't panic when people pull away because she knows that anyone who's meant for her will never need to be chased. If you're struggling with being clingy, it's time to go inward. Ask yourself, what am I so afraid of losing? And why do I believe I'm not whole on my own? Because that's where it begins. The illusion that your value depends on external attention, that your worth is measured by someone else's response time. But darling, your worth is inherent. It doesn't fluctuate with their presence or absence. The woman who respects herself doesn't beg for love. She becomes love. She cultivates her own emotional garden so beautifully that others feel honored just to be allowed in. She doesn't make anyone her entire world because she already has a world, one filled with purpose, passion, vision, and peace. Start building that world. Wake up early, move your body, educate your mind, build your dreams, heal your wounds, spend time with people who pour into you, detach from people who make you feel like you're too much or never enough. And most importantly, stop overgiving in the name of being loving. Real love is mutual, not one-sided. Let them messy, let them wander, let them reach. Stop filling every silence with a message. Stop trying to prove you're worthy of staying. Stop checking in when they stopped checking on you. That's not love. That's emotional survival, and you deserve better than just surviving. Being clingy is not a personality trait. It's a pattern, and all patterns can be broken. When you learn to regulate your own emotions, when you learn to self-soothe instead of seeking someone to fix your feelings, you reclaim your power. The woman who stops being clingy is the woman who finally realizes she doesn't have to earn love by shrinking herself. She commands love by standing in her wholeness. You're not hard to love, but you are responsible for loving yourself first. Let them come to you, and if they don't, you'll still be rising. Clinginess is not love. It may wear the mask of affection, the disguise of devotion, but beneath it all, it's fear. And fear is the opposite of love. Fear tightens, love expands. Fear holds on, love lets flow. When a woman becomes clingy, it's not because her heart is too big, it's because her sense of self has become too small. She doesn't cling because she loves too much. She clings because she fears being unloved. Let's be honest about where this comes from. Most of the time, it starts long before any relationship even begins. It starts with the inner child who learn that love is something you earn, not something you're given freely. That attention is conditional. That being chosen means being available 24/7, sacrificing your peace to maintain someone else's presence. And when those beliefs go unchecked, they follow you into adulthood. So when you finally feel seen, you hold on like your life depends on it. But what you're really afraid of is disappearing again. You start texting too much, over-explaining, overthinking every little silence, every pause, every unread message. You try to fix things that aren't even broken just to feel needed. You constantly seek validation, not because you're weak, but because your nervous system has been trained to equate stillness with danger. You don't trust that love can be calm. You don't believe that someone could stay without being chased. But in that chase, you lose the very thing that makes you magnetic: your calm, your grace, your mystery. A woman who clings is trying to fill a gap, but the truth is, no one can fill that gap for you. If your soul is screaming, "Please don't leave me," that's not a call for love. That's a cry for healing. That's your past asking to be seen, acknowledged, and nurtured by the one person who's been ignoring it. Fear tells you that if you don't hold on tightly, they'll leave. But reality is more brutal. The tighter you hold, the faster they pull away. As nobody wants to be someone's oxygen. No one wants the responsibility of fixing your loneliness, healing your insecurities, or validating your every move. Love should be a choice, not a burden. And when your presence starts to feel like pressure, it becomes too heavy to carry. Let's not sugarcoat this. Clinginess is not romantic, it's not endearing, it's not sweet, it's exhausting, it's anxiety disguised as affection. It's control disguised as care. It's fear that says, if I don't remind you I exist, you'll forget I matter. But love doesn't require reminders. When someone values you, you don't have to keep proving yourself. You don't have to beg to be seen. What clingy women don't understand is that presence is more powerful than persistence. Space is seductive. Silence is elegant. When you cling, you strip yourself of all of that. You become predictable, emotionally needy, and energetically draining. And in trying so hard to keep someone close, you push them further away. Because you've stopped being a mirror of love and started becoming a mirror of fear. And let's be clear, this is not about playing games. This is not about acting detached to appear strong. This is about being strong enough to not need to act at all. To trust your worth so deeply that even if someone walks away, you don't crumble, you don't spiral, you don't lose yourself. You simply release because you were whole before they came and you'll be whole after they leave. Clinginess thrives in women who haven't found purpose. When your life is empty, people become your escape. When you have no internal anchor, you seek external ones. So you start holding on to people like lifeboats, when the truth is you're not drowning, you're just disconnected from your own depth. You've built your emotional home inside someone else, and now every time they move, you feel the earthquake. But they are not your foundation. You are. A woman who is rooted in her own purpose does not cling. She connects, yes, she gives, she nurtures, she holds space. But she doesn't lose herself in the process. She doesn't overextend to keep someone around. She understands that love is a shared energy, not a desperate transaction. She doesn't monitor who texted who first. She doesn't chase. She doesn't obsess because she's busy becoming, busy building, busy being the kind of woman whose presence is enough, whether anyone else affirms it or not. So many women are holding on, not because the person is right, but because they're terrified of the void that might be left behind. But don't you see? That void is not your enemy. It's your invitation, an invitation to go within, to see where you abandoned yourself, to confront the fears you've been masking with attachment, to finally heal what you keep trying to cover up with someone else's attention. Love doesn't bloom in the soil of desperation. It blooms in presence, in patience, in peace. But peace only comes when you release the idea that someone else is the source of your security. You are the source. Your connection to your own soul, your own purpose, your own divine identity, that is where your safety lives. Everything else is a reflection, not a replacement. You don't need to beg for what's aligned. You don't need to prove your worth by overgiving. You don't need to stay up all night analyzing every word, every tone, every emoji. If you find yourself obsessing, chasing, losing sleep, that's not love. That's addiction. That's emotional dependency. And it's time to detox. A high-value woman is not born, she is built. She is carved by her pain, shaped by her wisdom, and elevated by the standards she refuses to lower. She doesn't chase. She doesn't run after attention, love, or validation. Not because she doesn't have connection, but because she has cultivated a life that demands she be pursued with honor, not convenience. She knows that what is meant for her will not require her to beg, to prove, or to shrink. Who chose to ignore your red flags, she's not sitting around waiting for someone to notice her worth, because she's already busy living it. You see, the chase comes from luck. It comes from the belief that something is missing and that someone else holds the missing piece. But when a woman is high value, she realizes that she is the entire puzzle. Her life, her energy, her mind, her softness, her depth, that is the complete picture. She doesn't need to be completed. She needs to be met. And that is the difference between a woman who chases and a woman who cultivates. The woman who chases is always trying to catch up to someone, always trying to be chosen, to be loved, to be kept. She studies their moods, adjusts her rhythm, sacrifices her peace to stay relevant in their story. But the high-value woman, she writes her own story. She moves with purpose, with direction. She doesn't run after people, she runs toward vision. She doesn't abandon herself to be part of someone's world. She builds a world so rich that others feel blessed just to be invited in. Cultivation is not passive. It's not sitting around hoping life gets better or waiting for someone to come and complete you. Cultivation is intentional. It is sacred. A high-value woman cultivates her mind. She feeds it truth, books, discipline, silence. She cultivates her body, not for aesthetics or validation, but because her body is her temple and she treats it as sacred ground. She cultivates her spirit through prayer, through stillness, through choosing peace over chaos, alignment over noise. She doesn't waste her days stalking someone's social media, decoding mixed signals or wondering why they haven't called. She's not auditioning for love. She is love. And she knows that when she lives from that truth, she becomes undeniable, not because she's loud, but because she's aligned. Not because she's flawless, but because she's rooted. Rooted in standards, rooted in grace, rooted in purpose. A high-value woman understands energy. She knows that constantly chasing is not only unattractive, it's energetically repelling. It screams, I don't believe I'm enough unless you choose me. And that frequency is exhausting. No one wants to feel responsible for someone else's worth. So when she finds herself tempted to chase, she pauses, she breathes, she remembers who she is, and she comes back to herself, to her power, her path, her divine timing. She isn't desperate for love, she's selective because she's built something worth protecting, her peace, her values, her boundaries, and not everyone deserves access to that. So she's not impressed by compliments, by promises, by attention. She's moved by consistency, by integrity, by emotional maturity. She understands that just because someone desires her doesn't mean they're ready for her. And so she lets people reveal themselves, not through their words, but through their patterns. And there comes a moment in every woman's life when she gets tired of the repeated cycles, tired of the same heartbreak in different bodies, tired of chasing love and losing herself. And in that moment, she's faced with a choice: continue to suffer in silence or finally choose herself. That's when the healing begins. That's when the pattern breaks. Not when someone else starts loving her right, but when she decides to love herself like her life depends on it. Because the truth is, it does. We don't realize how many of our habits, choices, relationships, even the ones that look normal are built on the absence of self-love. We normalize pain so deeply that we stop recognizing it as dysfunction. We say things like, "That's just how I am," when we're actually describing our trauma. We mistake attachment for love, chaos for passion, and attention for care. And we repeat these cycles again and again, calling it fate, calling it bad luck, when really it's just unhealed parts of us screaming for our own attention. And the pattern won't break until we do. You can't keep trying to heal your wounds by handing them to other people. You can't expect someone else to show you your worth when you've refused to see it for yourself. You can't keep performing for love, overgiving to feel valuable, and abandoning yourself just to be chosen. Because every time you betray your own soul just to keep someone else around, you teach yourself that love equals loss. You reinforce the very pattern you're trying to escape. Self-love is not a bubble bath. It's not just journaling and affirmations and lighting candles. Self-love is radical. It's a war you fight every day between the version of you that wants to go back to what's familiar and the version of you that's willing to grow, even if it means being alone for a while. Self-love is choosing to sit in your pain instead of numbing it with distractions. It's choosing to walk away from what doesn't feel right, even when it's all you've ever known. It's looking in the mirror and saying, "I will not tolerate another day of because patterns are persistent. They don't care about your intentions, they care about your identity. And if your identity is still rooted in fear, in lack, in abandonment, you will keep attracting people, situations, and outcomes that mirror that back to you. Not because you deserve it, but because your nervous system is addicted to it. It's not love you're missing, it's safety, emotional safety within your own being. And that only comes when you stop outsourcing your peace and stop coming home to yourself. The woman who loves herself doesn't chase, she doesn't beg, she doesn't tolerate breadcrumbs, not because she's arrogant, but because she understands her energy is sacred. She's no longer willing to be drained just to feel needed. She doesn't equate being chosen with being loved because she's already chosen herself. And when you choose yourself deeply, completely, fiercely, the whole world begins to respond differently to you. Not because the world changed, but because you did.